What if Britain's strongest alliance was shattered? Not by war, but by betrayal. Welcome, viewers. This is UK Core News, and tonight we dive into a political earthquake shaking the very core of Britain-Israel relations. A revelation so shocking, it sent ripples from London to Tel Aviv. Yes, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just made a declaration that no one saw coming. In his fiery address, Netanyahu accused Britain of an ally betrayal, saying, "When friends begin to act like foes, truth becomes a necessity." His words instantly grabbed the world's attention because on the very same day, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer made a historic statement in Parliament, announcing that Britain will no longer offer unconditional support to Israel's wartime policies. And that was the moment the storm began. Within hours, Tel Aviv summoned the British ambassador, while Israeli media exploded with headlines branding the move as Britain's betrayal. Meanwhile, inside London's political corridors, tensions skyrocketed. Opposition MPs accused Starmer of bowing to global pressure, while others hailed his stance as a moral turning point in British foreign policy. The question now looms: has Starmer just ended one of the West's oldest alliances? Or is Britain finally redefining what it means to be an ally in the 21st century? The episode begins here, with a single act of political defiance that could rewrite the future of Britain's global standing. As the dust settles, the British public finds itself divided. On one side, supporters of Starmer see this as a bold declaration of independence, a long overdue step away from blind alignment with foreign powers. On the other, critics claim he has jeopardized decades of diplomatic trust, turning Britain into a question mark on the global stage. Inside the House of Commons, debates grow fierce. Former officials warn that economic and intelligence ties could weaken, while defense analysts hint that Britain's security partnerships may now face uncertainty. But behind closed doors, something even more dramatic unfolds. Reports suggest the Israeli cabinet has approved strategic reviews of its cooperation with British agencies. And just as the political storm intensifies, an unexpected move from Washington changes the game entirely. Sources reveal that the White House has quietly reached out to both governments, urging restraint, fearing a rift among Western allies could empower rival blocs like Russia and China. In the media, the narrative grows darker. Headlines scream of a new Cold War of diplomacy, while social media erupts with polarized reactions. Hashtags like Britain betrayal and hashtag Stand with Starmer begin trending within hours. Through all the noise, one question rises above the rest. Was this confrontation inevitable, or has Starmer miscalculated the cost of moral politics in an unforgiving world? As the world watches, Britain stands at a crossroads between principle and power, between loyalty and leadership. What happens next could reshape not just alliances, but the very identity of British diplomacy. This video is a dramatized news analysis created for storytelling purposes. The next morning, global markets open to turbulence. The pound dips slightly as investors react to uncertainty surrounding Britain's foreign policy stance. Yet, while financial institutions remain cautious, something surprising happens. Public sentiment begins to rally behind Starmer. Thousands flood the streets of London, waving flags, chanting slogans of sovereignty and justice. "No nation should be silenced for speaking truth," reads one banner outside Westminster. But not everyone is cheering. Inside Downing Street, senior advisors warned that Britain may soon face diplomatic isolation if the tension continues. Intelligence insiders leak that several joint operations with Israel have been quietly suspended pending review, a decision that could have long-term strategic costs. Meanwhile, King Charles is said to be monitoring developments closely. Sources suggest that the palace, while maintaining neutrality, is deeply concerned about Britain's image abroad and the potential strain on Commonwealth relations. Behind palace doors, discussions reportedly center on maintaining stability amidst political chaos. Across the Atlantic, the U.S. State Department calls for an emergency dialogue, aiming to prevent a fracture within NATO's intelligence sharing network. European allies, too, urge mediation, fearing that the divide could weaken collective defense in an already volatile world. And just when it seems the situation cannot escalate further, a leaked memo surfaces. The document, allegedly from a top Israeli defense official, labels the UK's recent stance as a betrayal of mutual trust. British tabloids seize the story instantly, pushing it across every front page. The pressure mounts. The British Prime Minister is now forced to make a defining choice, whether to double down on moral conviction or to rebuild diplomatic bridges at the expense of political credibility. The world watches in suspense as Britain, once the empire that ruled the seas, now struggles to navigate a storm of its own making. This video is a dramatized news analysis created for storytelling purposes. As night falls over London, the nation stands divided, and the world holds its breath. Reports swirl that a secret late-night meeting is underway inside Downing Street. Starmer, surrounded by his closest advisors, is said to be reviewing options, from quiet diplomatic outreach to a bold public statement that could redefine Britain's place in the global order. Meanwhile, media across the world erupts. In Washington, commentators debate whether the UK has overplayed its hand. In Tel Aviv, officials issue a terse response, warning of long-term consequences. And in Moscow and Beijing, state networks broadcast the turmoil with a smirk, portraying Britain's crisis as proof that Western unity is beginning to fracture. At Buckingham Palace, the king's silence is deafening. Courtiers leak that His Majesty has expressed grave concern over the political tone gripping the country. Insiders suggest that the monarchy's traditional role, to remain above politics, is becoming harder to maintain as the people look to the crown for stability. Then, just before dawn, Starmer steps before the cameras. His tone is firm, his message clear. Britain will not bend under pressure. Our values are not for sale. The speech instantly goes viral. Supporters hail it as the rebirth of British resolve. Critics call it reckless brinkmanship. Yet, in one stroke, the Prime Minister transforms the crisis into a statement of defiance. Markets begin to stabilize, and foreign leaders cautiously respond. Within hours, quiet diplomatic back channels reopen, proof that even in conflict, dialogue remains the world's only bridge. By day's end, one thing becomes clear. This was not merely a clash between allies, but a test of Britain's identity, a struggle between moral conviction and political survival. And as the camera pans across the London skyline with Big Ben striking midnight once more, one haunting question lingers. Has Britain reclaimed its voice, or just awakened the storm? This video is a dramatized news analysis created for storytelling purposes.